But
I've heard it said that you could build an H from the ground up and just start with one bolt and get every part to put on it.
Well, at one time I could have, but I had a small salvage yard operation where I had about 40 to 45 parts tractors, and had a little barn down in Ringgold, Georgia that I've used for about 20 years. But we're phasing out of that. The old boy that was a great friend of mine, Larry Wilson, he passed away 3 years ago now, and his widow, Peggy, has allowed me to still use the barns. But I'm trying to clean out, and I've accumulated junk down there for 20 years, and now I'm trying to get rid of everything.
Oh my goodness!
So
I can't imagine another 14 years in our house and how much junk I'll have.
So we realize.
Hey, just remember, if you look at it and you don't know what it is and you don't know what it's used for, you better keep it because you might find out.
Well, that's true. That's true. I have a box of what I call UFOs, parts that I don't know what they are. Either the tag is illegible or there's no cast part number on it or stamp part number. So I keep them over there, and every now and then I will uncover a part, and that's what that is. And I can assign a part number to it, and I go grab it off the shelf if I can find it in the right box.
If you find it in the UFO box.
Yeah, yes. So that happens every now and then.
And you've got literature galore in here.
Yeah, we have, of course, every dealer had a full set of parts catalogs back in the day, and usually a couple boxes of operators manuals that for some reason never got given to the customers that they were supposed to get bought tractors or equipment. But we've got boxes and boxes of books. Now, we've sold a lot here in the last few years because as the sources dry up, it's getting harder and harder to find
stuff like that.
But one of the things that I did, even as a little boy, when I'd go to Bourbon Farm and Home with my dad, I'd go to the literature rack and pick up
literature
piece of literature. And so I consider myself a serious literature collector. I've got a quite extensive collection and have added to it through the years.
That is so. You've shown me one that you picked up when you were just a child.
Yeah.
That was for the vegetable series.
Yes. Yeah, from the Cub, yeah. I'd written on it when I was a kid.
Didn't know no better, did you?
Yeah, that's right. I can tell you one story. When I was 19 and working at Bourbon Farm and Home, it was a cold, snowy Saturday afternoon, and Jim Summers, the parts manager, he said, and I didn't have much going on in the shop, didn't have any deliveries to do. And he said, Roy, why don't you come up and clean out the literature rack? And I'd already had my collection as a kid. Well, I cleaned off and I found stuff back there even from 15 and 20 years ago was still on the rack.
You're talking mid to late 50s.
Yes, 50s and early 60s. Big stack of literature, and I, like a dumb teenager, threw all that stuff
right
away.
in the dumpster.
Right in the dumpster.
Oh, no.
And over the years, it took me a while to collect a lot of that stuff back, but that's one of the funny stories. And, back in the day, when new posters would come in, we would just take them down off the wall, throw them away, put the new poster up. You just didn't think about keeping all that.
You know what? Nobody even could fathom that IH would ever go down and go out, and that the name wouldn't be anything other than a historical memory, which most of us are. Anybody that's into IH just loves that kind of stuff. There's a block of wood on the shelf behind me here.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to tell me why there's a stupid-looking block of wood on the middle of the shelf here?
Well, a friend of mine, Larry Eipers from Illinois, was able to get that out of... That is a part of a floorboard from the Farmall plant.
Wow.
And one of his tractors, I think it was his 806, was featured in a calendar, IH calendar, right about the place where they were able to get
right where the
some
line
blocks.
Was there.
So Larry was able to get these little blocks of wood, and I don't know the reason why it's such a small one. It must have been an end piece or something.
Okay.
It's creosoted on oil stain on both sides.
And it's about 4 by 3.
Yeah.
And 6 or 8 inches long.
Yeah. That was part of the flooring.
Well, it had to be a pretty big flooring.
Yeah, and even back in the day, when they had the steel wheel tractors, they rolled them down the assembly line. I went to a sales school in 1979 out in the Quad Cities, and I was able to tour the Farmall plant.
Wow.
So that was another special remembrance for me. But Larry gave me that block of wood, so that is
really something nice. That's really something great. Because the place is plowed under and paved over by now.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And I guess, and then here in Chattanooga...
there's a plow company in Chattanooga, right?
Chattanooga Plow. They were actually in existence from the 1890s, I believe. And in 1919, International Harvester bought out Chattanooga Plow.
Okay.
And so for about, from 1919 to somewhere in the early 50s, International Harvester owned Chattanooga Plow. So a lot of the old part numbers that have CP on them, like Plow Parts or something
okay,
like
so that would be Chattanooga Plow, and then the part number, and then it would be stamped with the IH logo.
And I actually...
And some of them actually, you've got a plowshare.
Yeah.
Piece of plow that is stamped with both castings on it. It says Chattanooga Plow, and it says IH on it.
Yes, that's
it's very, very unique, very cool.
And they did, of course, the same thing with like Parlin and Orndorff from Illinois, P&O Plow Company.
Okay.
And a lot of those part numbers are still in existence. PO and a part number, 4 or 5 digit number. And that's how the nomenclature was back then. Now CP, Chattanooga Plow stuff is getting to be really hard to find. If you have an old plow with a Chattanooga plow bottom on it or chilled steel plow bottom, they are getting to be really
really rare now.
And of course, they made cane mills and cane presses, disc plows. Disc plows was another thing that Chattanooga Plow made.
Okay.
So a lot of the southern products.
Okay, all the southern stuff. What about? We know that at one time, IH liked to make almost everything they used.
Yes.
It's wondered they didn't own a tire plant. Or did they?
I don't know. They had their own twine plant. They owned it.
They had their own iron, their own steel mills.
Coal mines in Kentucky, Benham, Kentucky.
Oh,
was
my
a coal mine
goodness.
town that was owned by Harvester.
Ships on the Great Lakes, trucking in the ore.
Yeah.
And they made all their own nuts and bolts.
Yep.
And they also supplied those nuts and bolts to other manufacturers, though, right?
I believe they did. Yeah,
they did. Probably not not with their own stamp on it. But they you tell me they had 3 stamps on the heads of the bolts. What were those?
Well, in the 30s and 40s, and I really don't know the reason why, but they called them dot head bolts, and they had just a little circular
just
dot.
one raised dot in the middle of it.
Right, and it could be grade 2 or grade 5.
Okay.
Or I don't know about grade 8, honestly, but that we call them dot head bolts. So if you're doing a period correct restoration of a tractor from the 30s or 40s, you want to try to find the correct dot head bolts.
Wow.
And so that can be a little difficult at times.
I would say so.
But then in the late 50s, the bolts they came with the IH head stamp on.
Okay.
Once again, if you want to be period correct for your tractor or implement.
So what year would this be?
In the late 50s and through the 60s.
Okay, late 50s through 60s,
and then,
IH bolts.
And then sometime, I believe in the 70s, when the 66 series came out, I could be wrong on this, but about that era, Wes Pullman, who was making the IH bolts, just started putting WP on.
Oh, they would start stamping them with their own stamp.
So the 66 and 86 series in particular, a lot of those have the WP on them. So once again, if you want to be period correct, which is a tiny little detail, you want to try to find the WP bolts, which are getting to be hard to find.
Well, what do you think about when you do a restoration about trying to be period correct?
A lot depends on your pocketbook, how much you want to spend. To be period correct can be actually costly. But one of the things about our hobby, our tractor collecting hobby, is...
You mean the illness?
Yes. The red fever.
The red fever?
What if it's a wide enough hobby? If a guy wants to keep it in its work clothes, that seems to be a growing segment, is to try to find a nice original tractor or implement in its work clothes and leave it that way. And I think that's cool. But if you want to restore it, we've had it, in particular, there's a guy local that had a Super C, and he chrome plated everything on the Super C that he could.
That didn't move.
That didn't move.
Back in the day when we were doing hot rods, they say chrome it if it don't move.
Yeah. So, I mean, and our hobby is wide enough. If anybody wants to do that, whatever they want to do with it's their tractor, they can.
It's your tractor.
I'll sell them the parts for however they want to make it. So, but, yeah, it's kind of interesting. But I do get anytime I'm at a tractor show and I can look at a really nice original tractor with the correct decals and all that kind of stuff, to me that's special. I like to see that. Yeah. And of course, the low hour tractors are really bringing big dollars now. So
low hours even more than low numbers, or will low numbers always be low serial numbers? We're talking about.
I follow Machinery Pete. Is that okay to say that?
Why not?
Okay, I follow Machinery Pete on YouTube.
As long as you follow me.
Yeah. Red Tractor Nation.
That's right. That's right.
So, just recently, the serial number 1066 sold for big money out in Iowa.
Wow.
I think it in the 70s or low 80,000 is what that brought.
That's a lot of money for a tractor.
It looked like it was a tractor with a Henniker or year-round cab on it too. It didn't even have the IH cab.
Wow.
But it was serial number 1. So, yeah, the low serial number ones will bring big money.
They'll bring good money, yeah.
Yeah.
Low hours or not. So if you're going, is it really worth it if you're going to invest in a tractor to turn over, if it's going to be a flip tractor, as we would say in the parlance today, how would that work out for you?
For the old tractors, it is really hard to do if you're going to fix it up right. Mm-hmm. I mean, the days of buying a fence row tractor and putting a couple $100s in it and selling it and making $400 or $500, I think those are gone.
Okay.
And another thing too is so many of these tractors, if you find a quote fence row tractor, they just need so much work to get them even back in running condition. Mm-hmm. That you can spend a lot more, even just in parts, let alone your labor, mm-hmm. than what the tractor's worth. But if it's something special, like if it was a tractor that you drove when you were a kid, or Grandpa had it, or Dad had it, and especially if it's a family tractor that you
sky's the limit.
Yeah, then open your pocketbook and do it upright.
It's well worth it because you know what? Any tractor with that kind of backstory, you know where it's going to end up? It's going to end up on Red Tractor Nation, I hope.
There you go.
That'd be good.
There you go.
Because, like we say, every tractor's got a story, even the ones that some people have only had like a few years. Sure. If you can trace a tractor's lineage, that is just such a fantastic story behind that.
Yeah.
You know? What's your wife's favorite thing in here?
Probably the broom.
She
cleans this floor.
I do sleep in here a lot.
She cleans it on the floor. Can she figure she can never get it clean enough?
Yeah. She does great. I don't know. What is your favorite thing?
What's your favorite thing, Donna?
I think my favorite thing in here is anytime I see an old box or an old, IH emblem. But I love all the old boxes, all the old packaging. Mm-hmm. I think that's what I like.
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Here's a really old one.
Oh, that's a nice piece.
Yeah, that's from the 30s.
So what originally came in this? Piston rings?
That would have been
piston rings.
Yeah, a set of piston rings.
Wow, a set of piston rings in there.
So yeah, there's a lot of.
Dee will give you a close up of that. Yeah. Nice piston rings box, and you have like I said, the set of hot rod pistons.
Fire craters.
The fire craters. That's in the original box. Mm-hmm. Man, would you even want to take them out of the box?
Well,
if you were rebuilding what would you say it would be for an A or a?
I think those would be for an A or B.
For an A or B, would you want to take them out of the box and use them?
I think so. I mean, if you're getting a chrome emblem or something like that, or the aluminum or stainless steel emblems, when they're making reproduction, I don't know that you want to put new old stock on.
Right.
But a lot of guys prefer buying the IH original parts.
Okay.
When they're restoring their tractor.
Well, that was IH. That was their slogan, right?
Yeah, Fire Crater was an IH.
And they would say replace it with original IH parts, right?
Yes.
Only.
Yeah.
Only buy IH parts.
I have a can here. I guess I put it back. It had said that.
Yep, a paper can.
Yeah,
where's that?
Over there.
Oh,
it's over there. We got a picture of that.
You got a picture of that. Yeah, use IH parts on your genuine IH parts.
Yep.
When I work on a tractor, I'll try to put as many original IH parts in it as I can, just because I feel like it's going to be a better rebuild.
Oh yeah.
But like nowadays, getting back to the sleeves and pistons, it's next to impossible to find 4-cylinder gas American-made sleeves and pistons anymore. Most of them are made overseas, the reproductions that I sell.
Right.
And so when you do find an original IH new old stock set, that's something special. Well, guys will pay good money for those if they're wanting to
rebuild it and restore it to specs.
Right. So
you've got something really cool back here on your parts shelves. The parts shelves are really cool to start with because, like you said, they all came from dealerships mostly, right?
Right.
Pretty much all of them came from dealerships. You've got a little shelf that hangs.
Here, I'll step aside.
We'll let Donna demonstrate
We'll let
that.
Mrs. Edwards demonstrate that. Now,
bring it on up here, hon.
This little parts thing, so if you got more than one kind of a part in one of these bins, they would say they would have from this number 50 up to 100.
You can hang that. You could hang that on the shelf. This was at a dealership I bought.
And this would hang on the shelf, and
you could clean your bin out.
And you could pull all the stuff out of the bin, and find the part you wanted, and then you just put all the stuff back on it, and then you weren't taking them off, throwing them in the ground, or do like some guys I see, take them from this bin and put it in that bin.
Yeah.
And then the next guy's got to pay.
Yeah.
And he's got to pay the price for having that.
And that was designed.
That is such a cool thing to have. Such a neat piece of equipment.
For the wooden shelves.
And you got that out of a dealership.
That came out of Johnson City, Tennessee.
Johnson City.
One of the dealers that I had bought.
And you got a ladder.
Yes.
A parts bin ladder.
Yeah. Actually, the year that I started in business, 1994, gosh, I honestly don't remember how I came across him. The guy's name was Cy Campbell. There was an IH International Harvester dealer in Chattanooga called Clift Smith, and they were a dealer for over 50 years. Clift had worked for them that many years and more.
Wow.
But I met him, he was already in his late 70s, early 80s when I met him, and got to talk to him about the IH history and all that here in town. And he told me about when their dealer closed out that they had tons and tons of parts that they just hauled to the foundry back in the day.
Oh my gosh!
They didn't have an outlet like we do now,
right?
With collectors and everything. But he had a step ladder from the Cliff Smith parts dealership that he gave me, and
it looks to me like a ship's ladder. It sits at an angle, and it's got a hook
that hooks over the
over the end of the bend.
And the dealership there, Cliff Smith. Of course, I was never in the store because I didn't grow up around here. But they had, depending on the headroom that a dealership had, you could have 7, 8, 10, 12-foot tall bins. And then, of course, to get access to them.
Yeah, that ladder.
This was the ladder from Cliff Smith. So that's one of my keepsakes that I have here from that. And he gave me a few other mementos from Cliff Smith that I have.
Wow.
So, and he, very interesting guy to talk to. I was able to visit with him 2 or 3 times before he passed away.
That's amazing. So, just it's like talking to a living piece of history when you're talking to a guy like that. Even a guy that's as young as you are, you starting out at a dealership when you're 17, 18 years old.
Yeah.
Wow, you got introduced to the IH dealership part of it early.
There aren't very many of us. I mean, one of my best friends here in the business, Dwayne Hansford from Central Indiana, he actually worked for a Case IH dealer, so as a service manager and a mechanic. So, to say that you actually work for an IH dealer, we're all getting older and there's fewer and fewer of us. So,
well, I consider you an IH dealer.
Well, thank you.
We are.
I do sell parts and tractors. I guess
there you go.
Not franchised with IH though, but
so you used to have a few more tractors of your own than you do now. So how many tractors do you keep of your own that you're working on for yourself?
Right now, I only have about 5. At one time, I had more than I needed. Several different.
That's blasphemy.
One of the tractors that I acquired that I was going to restore was a Super MT8 Distillate burning tractor.
Oh wow!
Came out of Alabama from the cotton plantations down there, and it was a bona fide, legitimate distillate tractor.
Wow!
And you go up north, and a lot of people say, "Well, Harvester never made those." Well, they did. They were kind of a rare version because up north,
especially that late in the letter series history,
yes.
That being the last year of letter history, letter series history rather. Yeah, you would think that they would have gotten away from distillate burning tractor.
Down south, where I understand where they had to do that was a byproduct of gasoline, petroleum, and was cheap tractor fuel. Of course, that was one of the big draws, and it required a lot of heat to
get it to
started
ignite.
On gas, switched over to distillate. It required a lot of engine heat. So those tractors weren't very successful.
Did they have shutters on the front of it?
They would have shutters, crank the shutters to get your engine hot. And you would watch your temperature gauge. When it got hot enough, then you would reach down and shut off the gas valve and open up the distillate tank valve, which was the big tank.
Right.
And then it would
run
all day on distillate for pennies of the gallon. That was the big thing, was the economy.
And you know what? It doesn't. You know, we thought that. You know, history always seems to start when you're born, right? And we thought that people have always been aware of fuel prices and were worried about fuel prices, but man, even back in the early 30s and 20s, they were still concerned about fuel prices.
If gasoline cost 20 cents a gallon and you could buy distillate for 10 or 12 cents a gallon,
I know what you're buying.
You were saving 8 cents on a gallon. That was a big savings back in the day, and that was the draw for those tractors.
For that dual fuel fill.
So that's kind of a bittersweet memory for me, because once I found out it was a true legitimate distillate tractor, I started acquiring all the special parts for that tractor, the cold manifold, the heat shield, the shutters, and I was going to restore that tractor. But I sold it to two brothers. One lives in North Carolina, the other in Waseon, Ohio, and they restored it, and they had that tractor restored at Lima, Ohio, at the Red Power Show. I got to drive it for the first time under its own power. They did a wonderful restoration.
Wow.
And that fall, it got on the cover of
Antique Power
magazine, and there was an article in there. And one of the best written articles I have ever read about distillate fuel and the whys and wherefores of it and so forth.
Wow,
along
that's
with
amazing.
that tractor.
All right, so Roy, one of your other projects you got here is a 1959 Cub, right? So what are you trying to do with it?
Well, first of all, I need to get it running. There's a lot of varnish in the tank, so I had the tank dipped and sealed, and getting ready to put it back together. I've had the carburetor rebuilt, and just a lot of little things. New battery, fresh battery, tune-up, and hopefully I'll be able to get it running this winter. And then I have, so it's a 59
Let's talk
model.
about Cubs for a second.
Okay.
Since you are an expert on Cubs.
Not really, but
Not really?
I like them.
Now, you have a special connection to Rachel Gingle and Ken Updike's Cub Encyclopedia, though.
Yeah, I was asked to be a fact checker or proofreader for their new book that they came out with. And of course, Rachel does a great job with the videos, and Ken's been one of the top-notch.
Yeah, he's the best book writer
and
a great writer
through the years. And I've known Ken since the 90s, but yeah, I was honored to do that. And I did find a few things that we checked out.
No.
So
well, that's why they gave it to you to help edit
right.
that.
So that's an what do they call it? Unsolicited critic. That's not the word. Scratch this one. Not unauthorized. What's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know what you're talking about.
So I did the fact check, but it's...
you didn't get no credit.
I didn't get any credit. Yeah.
You don't got no credit.
Uncredited
fact checker.
But I don't care. I mean, I was just glad to do it.
I bet it was probably fun to do.
Yeah, it was. And I studied a little bit on some of the things. I wanted to make sure that if you're
busting them on something, you want to make sure that you're right.
Right on that. That's right.
All right.
So that was fun.
That sounds like that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then Rachel gave me a signed copy. So
that's the least she could do.
One of these days when I run into Ken, I'm going to have him sign his part.
That would be so cool. That's so nice.
Anyway.
So what else you got besides the Cub?
All right, so 59 Cub, and for the last few years, I've been looking for just an old beater international truck to drive around local here and run down to the parts barn in Ringgold. And a friend of mine from Monroe, North Carolina said, "Hey, I got this truck over here. It used to belong to a chicken farmer." And it was a 1-ton, 19...
Did it matter that it belonged to a chicken farmer?
Well, it's a little bit more rusty than we would like it to be. But
who was that guy that gave you...
Joe Rushing gave me the contact. Good
okay.
friend of mine. So
Joe hooked you up, huh?
He took me up with a 1959 1-ton B130, and it has the Atlas dump bed on it that came from Fort Wayne. And so we're in the process of restoring it. We've got the motor completely rebuilt, went through all the brake system and the suspension, new tires all the way around, and redid. I still kept the split rings on them because I used to change them. I'm not scared of them.
You ain't scared of no split rim.
Yeah, so I kept all those on there, and so we're ready to move into the cosmetic end of it.
Okay.
And hope to get it home here before Christmas, because a friend of mine over there in Jefferson, South Carolina is working on it right now.
What color are you going with?
Of course, I'd like to go with IH Red. So
I want that patina rust.
Yeah, my grandpa had a.
Yeah, I think that'd be cool.
Grandpa had a 1957 A130.
Okay.
And he ran that for several years till he retired. And I remember riding in that truck with him as a boy. And of course, B model's the next one after it, and a lot of similarities there. So the truck is a rusty green right now, but I think I'm probably going to paint it International Harvester red.
2152.
Sure, yeah. Why not? So anyway, but that's our current project, and one of these days you'll see us at a tractor show with our 59 B130 and our 59 Cub on the back.
That would be fantastic. Is that the one where that the day where you're just going to sit there in front of your truck and your tractor and just in your lawn chair and not work?
Yes, instead of working at a show, we'll just be enjoying.
You'll be able to enjoy a show once in a while.
Yeah, we've been to every Red Power since 1994, with the exception of the 2 South Dakota Huron. I was not able to make either one of those.
Okay,
but we've been to as many Red Powers as anybody now. So,
probably.
We've enjoyed the travels over the years, but we're getting tired.
Tired of the travel. You'd like to just load up the 59 on the 59,
and then just go
enjoy a show.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Well,
that's on our bucket list. One thing I want her to do, which she's notorious for doing this at winter conventions. Will you walk down the stairs?
Oh, I don't know if I can do that now.
Will you be able to get a wide? You might have to back the camera up.
To see her do her walk down the stairs?
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
You
got to do it now.
All right.
You've been forced.
She's notorious for doing that at winter conventions.
All right.
Let's go this way.
Okay.
All right.
Miss Donna Edwards doing her famous walking down the stairs.
Do you need something downstairs?
Trick. Yeah, go get it.
I'll go get it.
Did you find it down there? Well, bring it back up.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, man.
We do that around our tables.
Come here, man.
Yeah,
everybody's got to have a hidden what do they call it? Talent. Everybody got to have a hidden talent, don't they? Evidently, that's a good one. That's a good one to have. All right, you guys have been fantastic for hosting us here. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you, Mrs.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for coming.
We had a great time here down by Chattanooga, and this is a fantastic area. It's a great area for international harvester collectors and people. And this is Ed Holmes for Red Tractor Nation. Thanks for watching.